So the questions are these. How can we really activate the best of the private sector to meet the challenges of the real world? Is there a way to accelerate my career that doesn't involve boring online or classroom courses? And can I really impact people in the developing world with the skills that I have? Can I finally feel proud of what I know? Those are the questions, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Philippa White, and this is Thai Unearthed. Keep listening, and you can follow us on our journey as we show you how we're connecting the private sector with the social sector to make change. Hello everyone, Philippa White here, and welcome to episode 6 of Thai's podcast. Today I'm thrilled to be speaking with Binka Lebreton, who's the co-founder and director of the Iracambi Research Center in Brazil's Atlantic Forest, where she and her colleagues work to find solutions to the challenges of biodiversity, conservation, and sustainability. She's also a writer and educator who specializes in the environment and human rights. And she spends several months a year on the international lecture circuit, where she is an experienced speaker and broadcaster, but I'm guessing that hasn't happened during COVID, unfortunately. Yes. So now we have worked with Iracambi since 2009 and have had a number of projects with them since then, supporting their really important work of making the conservation of the Atlantic rainforest more attractive than its destruction. So hello, Binka. I'm so excited to have you with us today.
Hey, Philippa, isn't the internet wonderful? Aren't we lucky to be able to connect? Hi, everybody.
Absolutely. Yes, with you in the middle of the Atlantic forest in Minas Gerais. Quite extraordinary. And here, me in Olinda, Brazil. So, Binka, I'm fascinated by Iracambi. I'm thrilled to say I'm one of the lucky ones who've been to Iracambi, spent time in your house, and at the research center, understanding about the absolutely incredible work that you and Robin and the team do. And I would love you to bring you and Robin and Iracambi to life and just tell us just how it all came about, because I really do find the story fascinating.
You are too kind, Philippa. Okay.
Well, I do.
Long story short, it started with a midlife crisis. Now, my husband, Robin, is actually not listening, so I can safely put all the blame on him. We were based in Washington, D.C. He is from Kenya, and I'm British. And we had lived around the world, actually on all the continents except Australia. That's still on my bucket list. And raised our kids on the international circuit. He was working with the World Bank as an economist, environmental economist, and I was a concert pianist. So the fact that we are now running a biological research center in the middle of the back of beyond in the Atlantic forest in Brazil shows that you can do anything in your life, right?
Extraordinary.
Now become a biologist by osmosis and experience and love to. Yeah. So the idea was, let's get off the kind of, the World Bank bandwagon and go down and see if we can see if this sustainability stuff is real, if we can really do it. And I thought, because we had lived, 5 years in India, and we lived in Nairobi, and we lived in Indonesia, and all over the place, I thought of it as another 3-year or 4-year project. Had I known, probably would never have done it. But anyway, we did a very smart thing before we jumped off life in Washington. Our kids were just at college. So we didn't have any mortgage bills and we didn't have any college bills because the World Bank took care of that very kindly. So in our 40s, we were able to think about doing something completely crazy. And the sensible thing we did was we took a 6-month kind of gap year and got in a car in Washington, D.C. and drove down to Brazil, which was a country we lived in. Yeah, we had already lived here. We spoke the language. We'd chosen Brazil as a place to try the sustainability thing. And we got in the car and drove off. And many of our friends said, you're crazy. Many of them said, gosh, I wish I could. Some of them said, I wish I had. But most of them said, you're crazy. But they were kind to us, you know. So they gave us a fabulous slap-up American breakfast with pancakes and coffee and the whole 9 yards, and then waved us off to Brazil. And 6 months later, we arrived. We had actually driven down, and if you think about driving to Brazil, you actually cannot do that because there isn't a road in between Central America and South America. So we had to actually ship the car. And eventually we arrived at a piece of land that we had previously bought. It was on the edge of the rainforest in the mountains of Minas Gerais. We wanted terra mata and gente boa, so land, forest, and nice people. And that's what we found in Minas. Yeah. And we started off as a sustainable farm. And one thing led to another. You know how it is. If you knew where you were going, you'd probably never take the first step, right? Yeah. I couldn't play the piano. I couldn't be a pianist because there was no audience. And I had a beautiful piano here. And Robin said, you know, why don't you play to the trees and things? But, you know, somehow I didn't get the feedback. So I had my own midlife crisis. And what the hell am I going to do the rest of my life? And some kind friend said to me, well, why don't you write books? Because any fool can write. So thank you very much. Love you too. Anyway, I started writing books, and then eventually I started getting published, and I started traveling and talking. I was writing about the rainforest particularly. And one day somebody said to me, I was in England, said, do you have a piece of rainforest? And I said, well, yeah. Well, they said, well, so what are you doing about it? So I came back and I said, Robin, hey, what are we doing to save the rainforest? Because we're in an area of small family farmers, and this beautiful, extraordinary rainforest here was getting nibbled away at the edges by farmers who were just, you know, desperately poor and needed to raise a few more bucks to buy flip-flops so their kids could go to school.
Yeah. So when was this, just to put this into perspective for everyone? What year?
In 1990. So most of you weren't even alive, right? Yeah, yeah. And it was like moving back 100 years in time. It was very remote, no communications.
No light. I mean, I remember you you had to put in the electricity.
We put in the electricity. Telephone was a huge drama. Still is, actually. Telephone service in Brazil is quite tricky still. Yeah. And then we sort of got involved with the local community. And so 10 years later, after being smart enough to not to come and tell people what to do, but just listening and looking and seeing what they were doing, and then thinking if we could try and figure out better ways of doing it. We founded the NGO, so that was 21 years ago.
And congratulations, because you just had your birthday.
We just had our birthday. And, most organizations don't last that long. So it's been a miracle. And here we are. And Philippa and Ty are part of our history. So thank you, Philippa.
Well, thank you. And I mean, yes, as I say, I really, really love your work. What you do is so important. We've worked with you 4 times since 2009. Right. And actually right after COVID, or right before COVID, sorry, right after COVID. Wouldn't that be a great thing to say? Right after COVID. Yes. Anyway, right before COVID, we had our last project with you guys, which was such a success. But perhaps you can tell our listeners just about the experience that you've had to date with Ty, because there's so many stories that I can think about, but maybe there's a few that sort of stand out in your mind and just sort of bring to life the impact of working with Ty. What's kind of happened from your point of view?
I think maybe one of the things that springs to mind immediately is our very first Thai person who came from England, Tiffany, to help us with branding. Yeah. And now at that time, and until relatively recently, we didn't have a paid staff, or only 1 or 2 paid staff members, and the rest of us sort of cycled in and out and were largely volunteers. Today, we have 7 paid staff members and 2 volunteers. That's Robin and me. Apart from other volunteers, shorter-term volunteers, but 2 full-time volunteers. And Tiffany came and she introduced us to the whole idea of branding and marketing. And we, believe it or not, our original logo, we had set up our own website. I mean, you have to try and imagine that we are in the back of nowhere with very sketchy electricity and, you know, not the kind of stuff that you usually expect. And this was before cell phones and internet and so on were really very widespread. We had to get our internet through satellite, extremely expensive.
Oh, well, I remember. I think I was at Iracambi when you still had it via satellite, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And was, you know, incredibly complicated. Anyway, we had set up our own website with some help from some volunteers from the States. And we had, amazingly enough, chosen as our logo a sloth.
A sloth, right? Yeah.
Because we are an official center of release for captive species, which means that the forest police, if somebody, you know, picks up a jaguar or a sloth or 100 parrots, they bring them to release because we are a private reserve here.
Yeah.
And so our very first animal that was released was a sloth. And that was our logo because we thought it was cute. And then Tiffany came and she said, you know what, guys, it's not really very dynamic. So let's think. And then we came up with the idea, which is really our strongest asset, and that is the hummingbird. And there is a story, I'll tell you really quickly the story of the hummingbird. It's an indigenous story throughout the Americas, and the story goes like this, that the forest is on fire, and all the animals are fleeing except for the hummingbird, and the hummingbird is flying towards the fire with a little drop of water in her beak. And the eagle looks down at her from on high, and he shouts, "You silly little bird. You think you're going to be able to put out the water all by yourself?" And the hummingbird drops her drop of water and she says to the eagle, "I won't do it by myself, but I'm doing my part." And it was Tiffany who helped us select that image. And we were lucky enough to have a graphic person with us at the time. And the hummingbird has been, I say, one of our strongest suits and one of the things that makes us best known. And that was entirely due to Tiffany explaining to us that sloths were not very
dynamic. Oh, great. Yeah, gosh. How funny, you know, because actually thinking about it, I do remember the sloth. And I don't even think yeah, God, how amazing. So that was in 2009 that you created the hummingbird logo. How amazing. Yes. Yeah, gosh. Time is passing very quickly. Yeah. So as you know, we are launching our Thai Accelerator program, which we are super excited about. And I imagine our listeners now know what it's all about, which obviously is around getting groups of people to support organizations like Iracambi. And you are going to be one of the organizations that we're wanting to work with. And just wanted to know if you could talk to us about what you're hoping to get from this Thai Accelerator experience, how you hope we can help.
Yes, we're actually super excited about this. We, like all of us, we have been in a compulsory period of self-reinventing. How are we going to adapt our programs to the shutdown and the reality of that? One of the things that has affected us a lot is normally we have up to 100 students and volunteers and researchers who spend from 1 to 3 to sometimes 6 months with us over the course of the year. And this has the effect for us of providing, helping us with our mission of understanding how to protect the rainforest, providing us with a bunch of ideas. We've had students from 71 different countries.
Gosh, wow.
And we have their flags painted on the wall, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is all dried up, overnight when the sky fell in the end of March. And so not only do we not have all these students and researchers and volunteers, but they were providing income to fund our projects as well as ideas and manpower. So that was a huge difference. We had already been thinking and beginning to make corporate partnerships and sort of reevaluating our model. Much of our income stream comes from crowdfunding.
Yeah.
About 1/3 of it came from the volunteers and students who were living and working with us. And so we lost that overnight. And we had been thinking for the last year and a half about changing our model and not being on the sort of traditional NGO, hands out looking for donations all the time. So what kind of a social enterprise could we set up, and how could we make corporate partnerships and so on? So what we really would love to get from the Thai program is the opportunity to work with a group of, highly skilled professionals from different backgrounds, right? Yeah. So it wouldn't be just the one person. It would be, different people with different skills. Yeah. And, in an ideal world, Philippa, we would like to be like some very famous large international NGOs who manage to cover their core costs through working with corporations and non-corporations, just partners of one kind or another, either through helping, with sponsorship or in-kind donations or volunteering. So if we could reach that level, then all our crowdfunding could be directly applied to our projects, which are basically reforestation, education. We're working with medicinal plants. And we do a lot of environmental policy work, which is super important. We at first thought it was rather boring to do that. But then we realized that, one little person planting one little tree is great. One little person voting for, the right person who will help to make the policy changes has much more impact. Totally. So that's what we'd love to, to be able to contribute towards the accelerator program.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Well, I also, we just need to get the word out, because the faster we can get to get this group of people together to support Iracambi with the accelerator, obviously the quicker we can start to make a difference like that. So good. I will keep you posted as things come together in our world. But as you talked about policy, it brings me to my next question, actually, just because it's something that really weighs on my mind. As we all know, Brazil, the rainforest and the environment has hit the headlines quite a bit over the past couple of years, even now, with a lot of the burning that's happening in the Amazon in the north of Brazil. But particularly since Bolsonaro's come into power, it's also really hit the headlines even more just because of what's happening. And it's something that really affects people all over the world. People are obviously really concerned about it, something that I'm really concerned about. And I just wonder a few things that I want to know from you. One, what can you tell the listeners today that they might not know? And what keeps you up at night, and what also gives you hope? And I just wonder if you could talk to us about that, because you're so directly affected by much of what's going on in the government now, what has been going on in the government, policy, etc.
Well, I'm sure people know the situation in the Amazon. The Amazon is rapidly reaching the tipping point, at which point it will start to release carbon instead of storing carbon. And there is a really serious danger that much of the Amazon area can turn into savanna. We take a particular interest in the climate crisis. All our programs are directed towards trying to help mitigate that in some form or another, which is one of the reasons that we do large-scale reforestation and also a lot of community education. But the policy, that's a very interesting thing. And I think the Brazilian government is kind of taking a leaf out of the book of our big neighbors in the north by dismantling environmental protection laws in the name of economic progress, which is just ever more apparent that's happening. In our state, Minas Gerais, which is a state with a lot of mineral resources, this was already happening under the previous administration. The state government and now the federal government is doing its level best to remove citizen participation in policy decisions. For example, the federal organization that gets together all the environmental, both state and third sector actors, has removed all NGOs from the CONAMA, which is the National Environmental Council. NGOs have all off that, yeah. In Minas Gerais, our state, we've been on the State Environmental Policy Council, which is something that looks at, for example, licensing projects like big dams for mining, or anything that affects the environment. There has been a determined effort to make it more difficult for civil society to participate in this. So at one level, the state is really going all out for, quote, economic development without any idea that they're ruining, the enormous resources that Brazil has.
Yeah.
And, on the other hand, this is what gives me hope, Philippa, is that this whole COVID culture, where we are meeting and coming together ever more and ever more successfully, thanks to the internet. Thank God for having an internet connection, otherwise we would be sunk.
Yeah.
So that, for example, there are many organizations and networks and things that we belong to that are basically, they're based on the cities in the southeast, so Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo. And we haven't previously been able to easily take ourselves down to Sao Paulo. It's like a 10-hour, rather hard journey from here. But now we are coming together much more. We are able to communicate much better with each other and make some really sensible decisions. So I think that as the state is failing us, we are coming together as a civil society.
Yeah, yeah.
And that does give me hope.
Yep, and me too. And I think everyone can feel the tide is moving, where more people are awake. They feel empowered, hopefully, and I think we just need more opportunities like Thai, but there are so many other opportunities out there in different ways that people can feel empowered, can actually do something. And I agree, as a result of all of this, people want to take action. And I think if you're listening and this is something that you're interested to do get in touch, because this is a way that you can actually be a part of the solution and be the change that you want to see in the world. And I think that's what more and more people are wanting to do. So I agree with you. And I also feel hopeful because of that. As we wrap things up, Binka, I just wonder, can you tell us about what you're working on at the moment that you think our listeners will find interesting? I find what you do fascinating. Literally every time I listen to you talk, I feel so inspired. So I just wonder, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with as far as, what you're thinking about at the moment, what you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, we've got a couple of projects, Philippa. One is directly kind of arisen out of the COVID situation. We had a rather successful environmental education course where we were trying to train young leaders in this remote rural area of Brazil. The schooling is somewhat precarious, and many of the students in school are first-generation students. So, for example, the question of, homeschooling is virtually out of the question at the moment, and our schools are still closed. So we have set up and are just about to launch an environmental leadership online program. Now, this involves, most people in this area don't have access to internet. Many people don't, but most people have a cell phone. So if we can provide cell phone credit, we can involve some of the local students. And research reveals that the longer kids are out of school, particularly when they're 14, 15, the less likely they are to go back.
Yeah.
And at the moment, this is, other people,
right.
Either the boys will get a job, the girls, may get pregnant, who knows. But there's just a multiplicity of factors that makes it more difficult for every month that they're out, more difficult for them to get back. And we were discussing this yesterday. What we would like to do is, there is a whole wealth of potential amongst young people in Brazil, as everywhere else. We want to find the next Greta Thunberg. We want to find the next Malala Yousafzai. She is out there somewhere. Yeah. And we want to be able to give people, and many young people are bored and frustrated, We want to be able to give them the notion that, as you say, Philippa, they can be the change. And so it's very challenging and very exciting. And if anybody has any wonderful ideas on how to, awaken that leadership potential that is there, we know it's
amazing.
There. That's one of the things we're doing. Can I quickly tell you about the other one?
Please. Oh my gosh, of course. Yes.
The other one we're very excited about, we actually have been working on since before COVID. We have done a lot of forest restoration, and the good news is around here, it was the forest was quite badly impacted, and we have been running for the last 3 or 4 years a program of reforestation on local farms, small farmers, maybe 16 to 25 hectares, something like that. And we've been working with them to reforest, partly because they are, by law, they are supposed to have areas in forest, and partly because their land has been quite severely impacted by climate change, and there's been stress on water resources. Brazil is a very rich water resource country, and people are not accustomed to suddenly having things happen like their springs dry up, which is, of course, disastrous for them. So we've been looking at different ways of creating a really solid model of forest restoration that would be replicable in other areas and even in other biomes. So it's our program is called Iracambi Smart Forest. And we're looking at taking areas of reforestation, monitoring them very closely, both by drones taking photographs. We want to work with LiDAR, which is a kind of a radar, which is drone mounted, and which essentially kind of bounces down a laser beam, which will give you a lot of information about the regrowth of the forest. We can use soundscapes, to hear the noises of the forest, and all this put together can really create a very exciting picture of how the forest, in our case, or whatever biome you're working in, is regenerating. And if we can really get that going, and it's a program that's in its complete infancy. We've done the research, we've found partners in different countries who are working on this, to be able to produce a cast iron model that will say, this is, one way that you can successfully restore a forest. And this is how you can show that you've restored the forest. And this is how you can measure the biomass and, the amount of carbon that is being captured and so on. So that's our kind of big, hairy dream, Iracambi Smart Forest.
That's extraordinary. And just so I understand, what's the next step with that? Where are you at with that?
The next step of that is to find some funding.
Oh, I see. Okay. So yeah, fine. Okay, so for our listeners, actually, just as far as, please get in touch with me in the bio when I post this on the podcast in the info area. I will put the contact details of Iracambi as well. So please, if you know people or you can help in any way, please get in touch with Iracambi, because their work is phenomenal and it's very, very important. So Binka, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for everything that you do. It is so important. I feel so honored that we've been able to help in a small way with the work that you do. And I look forward to doing that again with TIE Accelerator, hopefully soon. We just need to get the word out so that we can fill this project. So
let's do it, Philippa. And thank you so much for what you do. And I just want to congratulate all of us for the ways in which we are reinventing and adapting. And it's not always easy. It's painful, but, we are all moving towards the new paradigm, whatever that may be. So that's something that gives me hope as well, that after this, things will be better. Yeah, agreed. Binka, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Until soon. Speak soon. Até logo. Até logo. Beijo. Até logo. Ciao, ciao. Ciao. Hey everyone, this is Philippa again. So this is your chance to get involved with TIE. We have 3 absolutely amazing virtual opportunities available, all rooted in connecting the private sector with the social sector to make change. TIE has never been more necessary than right now. So if you're looking for life-changing leadership development opportunities for your employees and you want your company to impact the world, we've got you covered.
If you're looking to step out of your comfort zone and use your skills to make a difference and keen to meet other like-minded professionals with similar values, then our Thai Accelerator program is for you. There are so many options, so I urge you to get in touch. Go to theinternationalexchange.co.uk for more information or just shoot us an email. Better companies, better leaders, better world.